Got it.
Oh, Jimmy Zisson's in. I don't know. Do we let him in? Yeah, all these people have registered. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Everybody's registered. I'm gonna let him in. You ready?
Go for it.
All of them coming.
Is this PowerPoint or recording? Is this available to stream anytime?
Yeah, we'll record it and
No, but I noticed you had
it.
Robin and I forget and Gary speaks.
Gary. Yeah, that was a good one. We thought that would be great to welcome everybody that's joining us. We'll get started in just a minute. We're just letting people in as quick as we can. We were thinking after Gary was finished, what an amazing piece of history. I mean, how long has he been our moderator?
Oh.
I mean, I wish we gave.
You haven't been here long either.
Oh yeah, hold on. I'm letting
Well,
people in.
it was I believe it was Steve Howe before him, right?
Oh yes, with his wicked pissa.
He was here for quite a while too. Those are the only two I remember, to be honest.
Yeah, so that means Gary's been here for a long while.
Absolutely.
But I'd love to sit with him and just have a casual conversation because he started loosening up and telling stories. I remember when, and it was so and great funny stories too.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy, very measured.
Oh, and Elizabeth just said she says that Gary has been administrator since the night. Did you say the 90s?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but
no, please, we're still letting people in.
He's here.
I remember my mom. I remember helped him with his very first campaign, which I think was in the late 90s. He wasn't the town. I believe he ran for town mayor moderator when he retired.
Oh, that makes sense.
I think was when he was, might have even been a little bit later because anyway, I think it's
Fumbles, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh.
Yeah, baby.
All right, let's mute.
Let's mute everybody. Not that I don't love a good F-bomb, but maybe not in this one.
Was that you, Jen?
Never.
That was Monica. That was Monica Tecca. You got to watch her. She's dropping the F-bomb when she
Oh,
comes
that's what it was. Yeah.
I haven't even started.
Trust me, everyone in the planet thinks it's me.
Yeah, we're gonna blame you, Mike. That's how we roll.
It's the first time it's not me. I love it.
It'll be me. Don't worry. Oh, all right, guys. Well, I say, Jen, if you're okay letting people in for a little bit, I'll get everybody started.
Certainly.
And I just want to say welcome to everybody. My name is Megan Sweeney, and I am the founder of Power Up, and we are a grassroots coalition, one that believes in the power of civic engagement. And here we are. Jeannie, could you hit the next slide, honey?
Public meetings in the civic.
Thank you. This is our steering committee, and I'm so proud of all of these people that you see, because we believe collectively and individually that the more you understand about governance, about democracy, the more engaged you become. And the community is that much better for it. The Marblehead community is so much better for all of us paying attention, showing up, asking questions, and being involved. So thank you again for being here tonight. This is our second year formally organized and our second town meeting prep session. It is designed to get you maybe a little bit excited about town meeting, but most importantly, to unpack a little bit of the mystery about town meeting. I know last year I learned an awful lot about town meeting, and more importantly, I learned how much I didn't know. So that's why we are here tonight. The steering committee that you see here today is on the screen is Lori Barham, Sue Sullivan, Jeannie Lampkin, Terry Toro, the one and only Nellie Nell, who is not able to be here tonight because she's on vacation. How rude is that? And Jen Schaffner. We as a group are guided by the brilliance, creativity, and the true love of community represented on this slide. In fact, two of these amazing people are proving right here for us the power of civic engagement. Jen Schaffner is appointed to a Marblehead Housing Authority board member just recently. She is also a former school committee member. And Terry Toro is currently the president of the Marblehead Municipal Employees Union, which is essentially the infrastructure employees here in town. And she is now campaigning to be our next Essex County District 8 representative to take Lori Ehrlich's seat. So we're really excited and proud of these people. With that,
So
I'm gonna.
so whoever said it was a man's world, I guess, had it wrong. Based on
That's
the
all right. We let you in, Mike. In fact, Jen and Terry, this is the last you'll hear of me. Jen and Terry are going to be your co-facilitators, and Jeannie Lampkin will be teasing us with some really fun Marblehead trivia. She set up a Jeopardy game, which is a riot. Be sure to use your chat function if you have questions. As time allows, we'll try and engage and answer some of those for you, and if not, we'll definitely do it afterward. Let's see. Thank you all for being here. I think that's everything. So from here on, I will pass it off to you, Miss Jen Schaffner. And Jeannie, will you move to the next slide?
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate that. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have a great couple of speakers we're looking forward to hearing. I did mute some folks because there was some background noise, so I muted the folks in the audience, so which I apologize for, but we were getting some back noise. So if you have any questions, you can always raise your hand or go in chat. And I think the speakers will be available towards the end of each of their presentations to answer questions. So thank you. Town meeting is in 6 days, and it will probably be raining, as it usually is. So we're excited, and tonight's presentation is in preparation for town meeting. So if you could go to the next screen, please, Jeannie. Thank you. So here's our agenda tonight. Our goal is to inform and inspire participation in town meeting. We're going to have a little town trivia as a warm up, which hopefully folks will appreciate. We are also then going to move on to our recently retired tax assessor Mike Tumulty, who's got some great information for us, I think, as taxpayers and voters to understand here in Marblehead. We will be meeting school committee member Sarah Fox, who's going to talk to us about the school proposed school budget coming forward at town meeting next week. Sarah also is a candidate for re-election for school committee, and we appreciate her taking time out of her busy schedule to join us tonight. And then at the end, we're going to share one of our articles that we're sponsoring at town meeting, which is a proposal to formalize the organizational procedures for our elected and appointed boards in town. Right now, we don't have any formal procedures required of our boards and committees, primarily other than the school committee, which is by statute. And we feel it's important that we put some organizational structure around it, which I think will help. We believe will help those of us here in town to have our committees be held accountable to certain procedures. And then hopefully close in about an hour, a little over an hour. And next stop is town meeting next week. Thanks. Jeannie, next slide.
Thanks, Jen. I think this is over to me.
Yes.
We have just a little fun warm up. We're going to play a little bit of trivia. Slides happening over here. So I don't know if those who are with us tonight joined us for our first prep session, but we had a little fun Marblehead Jeopardy game, and we will do the same today. And I'm just going to throw out, obviously, we're not going to play the entire game because we only have an hour together. So I thought I would just pick a few topics, and you can just type your answer right into chat. And this is the prizes are all bragging rights for how much you know about Marblehead town trivia. So I'm going to jump us over here to the people of Marblehead for 200. And the answer for Jeopardy is, or the question, Henry Devereaux. So if you want to type into chat, I'm not going to hum along the Jeopardy thing. I don't want us to get sued for taking people's music rights. but whatever you think the question is, to which the answer is Henry Devereaux. Those of you who know your Marblehead history, trying to think about who is this person and why
Oh,
are they in our Jeopardy game.
Monica had one. Monica said, where'd you go? Who is that nice beach named after? There you go. That's the answer.
All right, well, we're gonna jump on by who. The actual answer for today's game is who was the model for the drummer in the Spirit of 76 painting, the son of General John Devereaux. So that little boy in the middle, when you go into Abbott Hall, that's Henry. So now we all know that. All right, let's jump over and we're gonna go to places for 300. And the answer is King Street and Ye Queen Highway. So anybody know where in Marblehead is King Street and Ye Queen Highway? Anybody got a quick answer? All right, I'm gonna jump us right there. Those are the former names of State and Washington streets. So if you're feeling very royalist next time you're in that neighborhood, you can remember it's our King and Queen legacy. All right, see if we
Sarah
can.
Fox got that one.
All right, well done, Sarah. All right, I'm going to jump us into history for 200. First town meeting.
Oh,
Anybody want to throw in a date? No, this is a gotcha for my committee members.
Oh, wait, Jimmy's in.
Who's in there? All right, is Jimmy in there?
1649.
Oh, so very
Whoa.
close, so very close. Here we have it, 1648.
Yeah, wow.
So very close, very close. All right, I'm going to take you guys over to culture for 400. Make some money here. This is a video. It's a picture one. What is this picture representing? Lots of imagery, lots of happy memories. What is this? There we go. Sarah got
Fox.
it. It's
Sarah's
the
got it.
Horribles Parade, which is not part of the Festival of Arts, as we've probably all learned many times when we look for the brochure. We don't find that in there. All right, here we go. I'm going to take you one more.
All right, one more. Well done, Becca.
So this one is made in Marblehead for, I'm gonna go for the 400. What are these? This is a gimme. If you don't know these, you're in big trouble.
Come on,
Yeah,
Tom McMahon.
Joe Froggers. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. All righty. So I think we have now officially brought ourselves into the spirit of town meeting prep with a little fun Jeopardy game. Let's go back into our meeting mode. And I think, Jen, it's back to you to move us. I think we.
Uh-oh, you're in the wrong one.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's last time.
Oh, sorry. Or you might have to pause while I find the right one.
Well, you know what? I think we are just going right to Mike. So if you want to
I will
go around with
find
that.
it. Sure.
Because I know we did a slide for Mike, but we would also love to see his beautiful face and have him chat. So
Are these the trick questions now?
exactly.
These are the trick ones.
So we had been chatting a little bit before we let folks in when we were on a little bit early. And one of the things that Mike made a good point that, every year we go to town meeting and we do a whole bunch of stuff. One article of which is to approve the town budget. And I believe last year was the first year we topped $100 million in our town budget. And it goes by in a blink of an eye and everybody raises their hand and that's it. And there's not a lot of questions. And I think as Power Up folks, we've been talking about that I think sometimes it's sort of overwhelming for the average person who doesn't understand how the budget comes and what it's based on and how our taxes are assessed and where we get to that number. So we thought that Mike would be a great person to have to share with us some of the basics about our tax levy, how our property taxes work, how the assessment process works, and how that gets us to our town budget, which is primarily which comes from property taxes. And finally, what is this Proposition 2.5 that everyone refers to? How does it work? And what does it mean? Because we are going to be asked to vote on that on several articles on Monday. So Mike, I'm going to turn that over to you.
All righty. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I think as I said, you guys are doing a fantastic job. I think it's a long time coming. We did discuss, where this town is been the last few years, and it's not been where it's traditionally been. I think we've abdicated some of our responsibilities to the Collins Center and so forth. But you have the questions. I have them somewhere on my phone, but I'm going to take it back. I don't want to bore anybody, but we're going to go back to 1979 real quick, because that really was the genesis for Prop 2.5. Many of you on this call may know Barbara Anderson. She did yeoman's work with Citizens for Limited Taxation, and prior to Prop 2.5, there really was no governor, if you would, on if you needed the money, you just tax the property. So she came up with this idea that, okay, here's the deal. We're going to only allow the town to raise 2.5% more in aggregate. Some people mistake that for, oh, my house can only go up 2.5. No, there's several neighborhoods, there's waterfront, everyone knows Marblehead. So obviously properties, although a rising tide lifts all boats, not all the same percentage. But what they did is they froze the budget, I want to say 79. And they said at that point, this is your budget. You can increase it by 2.5% over the prior year levy, plus new growth. That would be new houses, any additional money that's being taxed for the first time, a new deck, whatever that might yield, but particularly houses. And that really was it. And you had to live within your means. Similarly, at the same time, there was something called the Sudbury decision in 1980. And that had to do with Lincoln Sudbury. And I don't know if you're all familiar with it, but they share a regional high school. There's much like, Masconomet with his regional communities. Well, the way state aid was divvied up at that time. Now, remember, keep in mind that we're going into Prop 2.5, and you could only have X amount of dollars over the prior year. And it's worked out well, honestly. But at the same time, Sudbury and Lincoln, their values weren't the same. They hadn't done the revaluations weren't a thing back then. Some people went 4 years without doing it. Some people went 6, some people went 10. Well, the way state aid was distributed is the poor towns get more money than the richer towns. Well, Lincoln and Sudbury there's no difference. Drive by the communities and you'll see what I'm talking about. Well, as it turns out, Lincoln had not kept up with their property values. Sudbury had. As a result, Sudbury got less money. They took the state to court, and hence we got the Sudbury decision, which said that every 3 years, property values, sold or not, have to be brought up to 100% of fair market value. So we're talking 1980 now. This was the birth of a lot of revaluation companies like Patriot, Collier, Trumbull, Vision, and of which I came out in 85 from California and started Patriot Properties with my friends there. So I started in the private sector, and there was a huge demand for that service because now everyone had to reval every 3 years. Now, a lot of communities would leave it for 3 years, not change it, regardless of the market, up or down. And so that really didn't change anything other than you got to raise 2.5% more in dollars. So if you raised 100 million one year, you could raise 2.5 million the next year. That's it. And so then we got into the revaluation situation. So they wanted it fair. There was more fair, more equitable distribution of monies. Just to give you an example, probably now 85% of the school budget in Lawrence is paid by the state, where 65% is paid by the town in Marblehead. So it was the poor communities got more money, and that's how it went. Then we got the 3-year valuations, and now they've gone to 5 actually. However, we're also required in non-revaluation years to bring property values up more of on a statistic basis than actual down and dirty. So that's Prop 2.5 for you. And obviously, as a result of that, we'll go back to number 1. What's a property tax? It's misery, right, for everybody out there. But that being said, it's the amount of money that we're allowed to levy under Proposition 2.5. So we have a levy limit which is predicated on the prior year value plus 2.5 plus the new growth I spoke about. And that's really pretty much all your money. So the property tax is the amount of money that we take our budget. Let's say it's $100 million. And as Jen pointed out, I think we just hit that last year for the first time. So it was $100 million bucks. And we probably had, I'm going to guess, between the light department, the enterprise funds, outside monies, motor vehicle, probably 3 million, et cetera. So you subtract what we're allowed to raise, subtract the money we're raising, not from taxes. And I think it was probably around 10 or $12 million in other sources of revenue besides taxes. And you're left with what we get to raise on property tax, which is obviously the major component of our revenue stream in every community without exception, I would imagine. So that's what gets us to the number. We take the total value of the community, divide how much taxes have to be raised, and assign, there's your tax bill, basically based on value, based on market value, which started with Prop 2.5 and with the Sudbury decision. The amount of money we were able to raise and the valuation in question by keeping things current and bringing it up to market value. So I think I've covered that. But what the levy is.
Can I enter? We had to do
Sure.
one quick question, Mike.
Yeah, fire ahead.
Does Marblehead do property valuations annually or every 3 years?
Well, it's required now where it's the 5-year valuation. We do it every year. I've done it every year in the 18 years I was here. I saw the 3-year valuation. It just to not do it is it's not prudent, because you expose yourself to abatements that, and I was very successful in that, being fair. But obviously, look, I get up every morning with 9,000 opinions before my feet hit the ground, right? There's 9,000 parcels in town. If I got them all right, I wouldn't have been doing this. I'd have been playing numbers in Vegas. So there's that latitude, which was the overlay, and you get, if you're staying current with your values, there's a less chance of exposure to that, which there's your free cash again. That all contributes to free cash. The local receipts that we didn't budget for, the overlays, there's obviously multiple sources of free cash. So that being said, the levy is the difference between what we're allowed to raise and what we're getting from harbors and water, from motor vehicle, from fees, fines, whatever it is. You can see it on the recap sheet. There's a 4-page recap sheet. Again, we talked earlier, so before I forget, I want to make sure everyone gets this. I think it's important because we did discuss knowledge is power, and I love that you guys are doing this. You ladies are doing this more than anybody. But that being said, everyone should go to mass.gov when you get nothing to do and just pull it up and go into there's a primer on Prop 2.5. There's a voluminous amount of information, and it's user friendly. It's municipal finance for dummies, if you will, particularly on the Division of Local Services. There's the Department of Revenue, and then that's split in half. There's the Bureau of Accounts, which handles the finished product, and the Division of Local Services, which oversees my portion of it, the assessment portion, the allocation of fair and equitable assessments. But it's ma.gov, and have fun. There's town specific stuff. You can see historical tax rates. I think it's probably the best thing that anybody that's on this talk tonight could probably do, because it shows some serious interest. And so I told you what the levy was, the property tax, what happened with the property tax, and how it got there, if I missed anything. And the tax rates determined, as I explained, maybe I touched on it, but you take what we're allowed to raise and you divide that by the value of the community. That's what they call the levy limit. Okay, the levy limit is the amount of money we're allowed to raise under Prop 2.5 plus any debt exclusions or overrides. And that was the biggest thing that probably happened with 2.5. It empowered the people of the community to make an informed decision as to whether or not they wanted to go outside the allowed budget for a specific item. So you have a debt exclusion, which is short-term, debt specific, and is expired, or you have a general override, which I believe is on the table. And that's the first time that I remember actually living in town since, I grew up in Swampscott, but here raised a family since '85 here. And then in the last 18 years here. So it's something that I think we've needed. I think I can tell you that right now, every year that I would do the budget in my department, marching orders was level funded, with the exception of salaries. That often we would ride the coattails of Terry's union on that, and the department heads would get the 2% or whatever it was. But other than that, if you think about it, for 18 years, I'm expecting WB Mason to charge me the same amount for a pen, because, hey, Marblehead's level funded. Well, life doesn't work that way, and now here we are. So how does the free cash affect the tax rate? And I think I don't want to repeat myself, because we had this at the discussion earlier. Free cash is basically the money that is either estimated. For example, if the town estimates $2 million in revenue for motor vehicle and we get 3 million, that million, we've set the budget, paid our bills, done everything on the 2 million that we estimated, but we get 3 million. Well, there's $1 million in free cash. So let's say, and they're asking me to provide them an estimate for financial projections every year. They ask the assessor, so what do you expect in new growth? Again, I'm not a soothsayer, but so you do the best you can. You try to be conservative. So if I estimate 350 and there's 550 in new growth that we're additional dollars, there's another 250 that goes to free cash. So as you can see, there's always going to be, because you want to be conservative. You don't want to, and the Department of Revenue really is pretty strict on that. If you were to change your estimate upward as opposed to down, they would want a greater than 10%. They would want a letter of explanation. So we've always been conservative on that end, and it's prudent business. So the question becomes, do you want, with regard to free cash and affecting the tax rate, we use, I think, 7 million last year, and that has been about the average. Let's say between 18 years is a long time to do anything, but between 5 and 8 million, we have allocated from free cash to reduce the tax rate. And I'm sure that article is also on there this year. I haven't looked at the articles yet, but I can tell you that it's on there. So they'll use some free cash that will reduce the tax rate. So that's one way it affects the tax rate. The other way would be to budget more closely to the actual number. So in other words, rather than saying 2 million and we're getting 3 historically, you could say, oh, let's go to 2.8. Well, that money that would be budgeting would reduce the tax rate at that time. So one way or the other, free cash would absolutely affects it, because we just would have less free cash and a more aggressive financial forecast, or a more conservative one, and have leftover free cash.
Thank you.
Top 2.5, I pretty much explained. Again, it really, what they did is like 1980, they froze the budget, and they said from here on out, you get to raise 2.5% more than the prior year, unless you vote as a community to have a debt exclusion or a capital expenditure, which has to be paid in 1 year, like a fire truck. If you want to take the hit 1 year, the override is permanent and it's forever. And the 2.5% would get calculated onto that. The 2.5% does not get calculated on the debt exclusion. So we don't get to raise 2.5% on the $3 million we spent on a debt exclusion. We would on a general override. You would get that exponentially. You'd have a growth in revenue going forward. So, you know, it's pros and cons. I think it's about time, but that's just one man's opinion. And as I told you, you probably got me at either the worst or the best time, because and I'll tell you the way I see it. Doesn't mean I'm that I'm right on my opinion, but I will, as an aside, tell you exactly one reason that I stood up and I think one time at town meeting and did speak against the Community Preservation Act. And it's not that I don't think fundamentally it's a good thing. Two things were happening at the time. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. And I know I alienated some friends, but the fact of the matter was that Marblehead, I think, in my opinion, has always made some really good decisions. They've been prudent. They've been presented with issues, and they've voted on it. And as a result, our tax, 11% of our tax bill. So it's like 1052 now. So about $1.50 is going to servicing either debt, debt one way or the other, whether there's no permanent override. So it's either capital improvements or debt exclusions. We have the high school rolling off soon. But again, that's just by nature, the nature of the beast is going to be that you're going to have that issue. And even a healthy community, 8 to 7 to 9% of the debt is of the tax rate is not bad. And believe me, the bonding companies, Moody's and so forth, they look at stuff like that. They want to see, we've made some good decisions. There's a healthy overlay. All this stuff is in play. But the community, getting back to that Community Preservation Act, that was going to be on your tax bill. So basically, the reward for making a prudent expenditure out of your pocket at a particular town meeting over however many years that we've got to, we're 11% of the bill. Now they're going to whack you with 3%, and there was no more money in the till for the matching funds. So it was kind of like getting your reward for saying, okay, I'll bite the bullet and we'll build the Gary now, and we'll get the 48 million and we'll be happy with it, or the high school. But
Mike,
yeah,
we have to take a couple of questions. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, go
I
ahead.
love all that stuff about the Community Preservation Act, though.
Yeah,
And
probably
especially talking about it over a drink at the Gary was pretty funny too.
yeah. Go ahead, fire away.
All right, so we have a question from Lori Barham. I'm sorry, the previous question was from Becca Whidden about the annual schedule valuations. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So this is from Lori Barham. What if property values fall after a period of high values?
Okay, good question. Excellent question. So getting back to Prop 2.5, if let's say our current tax rate's $10 and the unthinkable happens and Putin invades Ukraine, right? I'm being facetious. That was a joke, everybody. No, but if property values were to get cut in half tomorrow for whatever reason, the tax rate would double. You'd pay the same amount in taxes as you would likewise. If they double, the tax rate's going to get cut in half. If they get half, the tax rate's going to double, and they're going to whack the 2.5% on. So it up or down, it doesn't really affect the tax rate at all. As I explained to people, it's why you'd rather have high values, a fair assessment, and be leveraging $1 million on a $10,000 tax bill than leveraging a $50,000, a $500,000 house on $20,000 in tax. It doesn't make any sense.
So in
But
other
that-
words, if the value of the houses go down, the taxes aren't going to go down. Those will remain the same.
You are correct, because we're going to we get to raise the same amount of money
Yeah.
plus 2.5% in aggregate.
Okay.
And then the tax rate would be set the same way it's set every year, which is taking the amount of money we need to raise to run the town divided by the assessments of taxable property.
Great. Awesome. Well, in the interest of time, I think we're just about there at little 7:35, 7:34. So just before, I don't see any other questions in chat. So
Okay.
just want to see, is there anyone who had one final question for Mike? I think we had them. Oh, wait, looks like, oh, thank you, Mike. That's from Terry. Awesome. All right. Michael, thank you so much. We
Hey,
really
it's my
appreciate
pleasure.
this. Extremely valuable information, important, timely for folks coming up to town meeting on Monday. So hope to see you there, Mike, and everybody else on Monday.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me, and good luck, everybody. Listen, mass.gov. It's a
Thank
wealth of
you.
information for everybody, and get the word out. You're doing a great job.
Oh my
Thank
gosh,
you.
Mike, thank you. Feel
Thank
free to
you.
stay too if you want to, but you
I
might
will
want to
watch.
jump
All
off.
right,
All right.
thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike. So next up, we have, Jean, if you want to throw the next slide up there. We have our next honored guest, Sarah Fox, member of the Marblehead School Committee. I think Matthew, baby number 4, had a birthday tonight. So we appreciate you taking time out and hope he had a happy birthday. Sarah's also a candidate for re-election for school committee this year. The election's on June 21st. And so Sarah's here to talk to us about the proposed school budget that will be presented at town meeting on Monday night, which is the standard budget. And then there is an additional increase that does fall under, I believe, the Proposition 2.5 override that Sarah's going to talk about in terms of what's going into this budget Monday night. Sarah, I'll turn it over to you. Oh, and Sarah, just so you know, because we didn't necessarily coincide, I put your information on slides. So Jeannie's going to set up the next slide. And when you're ready, when you go through it, it's just the same information you provided me. She can go. I think there's 2 or 3 slides.
Okay, perfect. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everybody at Power Up for inviting me to be here tonight. And I'm just going to give you fair warning. There may be some background noise on my part. There's some excitement about an impending birthday cake after this, so that you may hear little voices. So I apologize. So this is going to be warrant article 46. It's sponsored by the school committee. And what that is we are asking for an increase of $3,051,093, which is 6.5% of our proposed FY23 budget. I wrote down when Mike said W.B. Maceman does not care that Marblehead level funds, because I think I'm going to use that line at town meeting. That is essentially the crux of where we are right now. Jen's lived this. She knows it. What happens is when we do level funding, which is what we've done for 17 years, when new initiatives in education come up, which happens all the time, DESE rolls out something which is mandated, or there's just new initiatives that come on, there's extra out of district placements, the cost of supplies go up, things like that. You know, we have this fixed budget and we're, for all intents and purposes, level funded outside of COLA. And what we have to do is we have to cut. So every year to get level funded, we cut a little, and it's become a death by 1,000 cuts, really, to be honest. So anybody that's really worked with the school budget, and I'm going to guess any town budget, knows level funded is most certainly not level serviced. So now we have 17 years of cutting our level of service down by a little. And what we're proposing to do is try to reinstate some of those lost items and bring us up to a place that is providing more for our students. So I'm going to go over some of the highlights. If you want to move on to the next slide, that benefit our students in this proposed number that we're putting forward. One of the items is curriculum directors at the high school. This position was cut, I believe, 14 years ago, due to the practice of level funding. By returning this position, though, the students will have the benefit of a more aligned curriculum, and staff will also have evaluations and professional support needed to maximize the outcomes for our students. I think it's really important when, at least for me as a school committee member, whenever I look at any number, any budget, really any decision, to look at how this affects students. That's why I'm kind of using that lens to present this. Permanent substitutes at all of our schools will allow our students to have uninterrupted instruction. Right now, we're in a crisis mode in the state level, but also nationally. with teacher shortage, but a substitute shortage as well. This year, especially when people would be out 5, 6, 7 days with COVID, if we had a teacher out, that means learning essentially stopped for several days or a week or more at a time. We had no one to fill those positions. By stabilizing that with permanent subs, we're able to really keep our kids on a continuum of accessing the curriculum. STEAM instructors and curriculum for our elementary schools. In our new building, we have a beautiful new STEAM room that's in there. We want to utilize that. We've one that was funded several years ago through the Friends in the Marblehead Public Schools at the Village School. And we've been able to also figure out how to implement that at the Glover School as well. So we have equity in our pre-K through grade 6 to really bring this 21st century level of education forward. And this will also align us with the state frameworks. We really have, at present, have not been able to implement any STEAM curriculum at those grade levels, and this will bring us up to par with that. There's an assistant principal position in here that would be shared between the Glover and Brown School. And this will provide additional student oversight as well as teacher support. I see a question here from Laurie Barnum. STEAM is science, technology, arts, and math. Several years ago, we all heard the term STEM. They added in the art component because a lot of times, at least from what I'm seeing with my children, is as they produce these projects, it's very much hands-on, tactile, experiential learning. So there's a creative, artistic element to how that we work this all together. Much different than what we're seeing just in our fine arts classes, I would say. Students will have enhanced college counseling and career readiness at the high school via a new assistant program. And then we have an additional bus driver, which will address some of our traffic concerns. Anybody that hits the roads in Marblehead between like 7:30 and 8:30, or, you know, I'd say 10 of 2 and 3 really is going to understand what I'm saying there, as well as addressing some of the sustainability initiatives that have been put off for really far too long. We have additional custodians as well as custodians as well as a groundskeeper in here. You know, when I was out doing, I did a lot of groups like this, 3-4 nights a week back in 2019 when we were trying to pass a school. And the overwhelming thing that I constantly heard is, why should we give you a new school? You don't maintain what we have. And we've really, really listened. We've heard what people have to say. We're deeply invested in maintaining these schools. Actually, Jen worked really hard with me initially when I first got on this facilities committee. She helped me do a lot of this work. Then I was joined later on with Emily Barron, and we are fortunate enough to a couple of years ago, through our capital override, get a facilities assessment. We had a professional company come in and assessed all school properties and give us a very comprehensive 20-year look. And we took that and we just really focused on the first 10 years, because to say that nothing else is going to pop up in our buildings, 15, 16 years out is a little too far out, I think. So we came up with a very comprehensive facility strategic plan. It's work I'm really particularly proud of, that you can look at any year for the next 10 fiscal years and you'll know this year we're scheduled to replace XYZ at this school to this number. And so embedded in this budget, in this override, is in this fiscal year, I want to say about $455,000 of facilities investments. And so, I've heard some people say that's a one-time cost. What will you do with that next year? Well, while those line items will be different next year, we will continue to invest in our infrastructure every year and maintain what the town has entrusted us with. We have several technology investments, security upgrades, and then we have full day kindergarten. I was really surprised to hear that Marblehead was one of, I believe, 8 schools in the state that does not currently offer free full day kindergarten. And the thought process was, by providing this, we would be bringing true equity to our students. It's really amazing, as I have kids of all ages, to see what these kids are expected to learn when they're going into first grade. I mean, we really essentially expect them to go into first grade fully reading, and to be able to do that without a full day kindergarten is just, it's quite unrealistic. So if we're asking kids to be able to do something, public education, we should be providing it.
Sarah, I think, not to interrupt you, I think, are you on the, I think you're on the next slide. I was just gonna have
Oh,
Jean.
yeah.
That's
no,
okay. I think it's,
Hang
yeah,
on.
there we go.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you, Jen. So yeah, I just ran through, I think, all of these items. I would love to answer any questions, concerns, any feedback from people.
You can either raise your hand or write it in chat if anyone has a question.
No?
I am on a, oh, I was just gonna say something quick.
Oh, go Becca, go.
Is that okay? Sorry, I didn't raise my
No.
digital hand, just my physical hand. Sarah, thank you. I just wanted to make an observation. I work with school buildings professionally, so I have some exposure to the question of school maintenance. And I think that having a 10-year strategic plan is not standard. So I think it's fantastic you guys have built that out. And I think that's really, when people think about who they're going to vote for, who has been contributing to that kind of stuff, I'd encourage folks to think about that, because that is really not standard. And then the second thing I might observe is that the MSBA does, at this point, if you look at their public facing website, have a new component called a post-occupancy evaluation that will be required of anyone who gets state funding moving forward. In the past, that hasn't been a requirement. The module stopped at module 8. Post-occupancy evaluation is module 9. So if the MSBA hopes to, if the town of Marblehead hopes to do any future projects with the MSBA in terms of funding, either their accelerated repair program or their core program, which funded the new Brown School, it would behoove us as a district, as Sarah has pointed out, to show that we are able to maintain our buildings, that we have an active plan, and that we are actually putting money into preventative maintenance. So I would just say that that's another good talking point, maybe Sarah, for you as well.
What are you doing next Monday night, Becca?
Yeah, no, I'm coming. I'm coming.
No,
It's on the-
I know.
She's coming. She doesn't have a choice.
I need you to go to a mic and say that.
No, I can do that. Yeah, it's all public information, so it's
Yeah.
it's available.
No, we do need people to stand up and say things like that at the mic, Becca. So I was going to tap. So we'll tap you for that.
That's good.
Elizabeth,
I can do that.
awesome.
Hi.
Elizabeth.
Hi, I just have a quick question, Sarah. One of the pieces, and it's, if you like, if this is a tricky one to answer, let me know. But one of the pieces that I've sort of seen people, and I think I'm also a little bit uncomfortable with this, is that it's hard to understand how far this override that you're asking for gets you in terms of runway. And I guess what I mean by that is, from my understanding is the finance committee voted to provide the schools with a level funded budget. And the school committee is asking for an additional $3 million in budget. And I just wasn't sure, is that $3 million to cover next year? And then what happens next year? Does the $3 million now kind of apply perpetually, or is there going to be a need to come back?
This is a yes and no.
Okay.
And I'll explain why.
Sorry to ramble on there.
This is a great question. And the more questions and concerns is great, because, if you're thinking this, someone else is thinking this, and I'd rather address it than skirt around it. So first of all, the finance committee, for the first time that I've seen in a very long time, actually went above level funded, and they unanimously recommended to approve our Article 46, approve our override, which was a little bit of a surprise for me, but a pleasant surprise. I was excited about that. So the way this would go under a Prop 2.5. The way this has worked is this money is allocated a perpetual increase in taxes. And the assumption is that this will increase our base every year by this amount. However, technically, if next year the town came back and the town said, we know the schools went for Prop 2.5, and we know that everybody thought when they voted for the Prop 2.5, that extra money was going to go to the schools every year. In theory, the town could go, but we're taking that 3 million and we're going to keep it in our coffers, and we're bringing you back down to where you are. The town can allocate us any number they want. They can cut us, they can keep us, like they can do that. The school likewise can ask for any number we want. We, through Mass General Law, can we can go to town meeting with our own budget. So it's kind of a little bit of this, you know, the premise is we're bringing this forward, we're marketing it, we have the plan for it, that this will add to our base every year. Now, how much runway that gets us, I don't know. So, and that's an honest answer. So in the past, the last override we had was 17 years ago. I can emphatically tell you that this will not carry us 17 years. It will not carry us 10 years. The idea that we don't continue to invest in any part of our town, really, but particularly education, where there's so much volatility in things like out of districts and new initiatives, is really crazy. What we hope to be doing is, you know, to lay out what we need and very clearly why we need it. For instance, if the state rolls out a new framework 4 years from now, and we know that we have to adhere to this, it is my opinion. Now, I'm one vote on a board of 5, and who knows if I'll even be on the board of 5, so take it for what it is. But that if you will always be denied 100% of what you don't ask for. So it's my opinion, we need to be honest about what is needed to provide a proper education for our students and do it in a timely manner. So can I guarantee that we won't need more next year or in 5 years or in 7 years? No, because I'm really honest to a fault about this stuff, sometimes to my own detriment. When I think students need more money, I will come back and tell you they need more money and ask for, you know, everyone's partnership in that. But I also hope that as people have questions or concerns on why or how or who, that, you know, you put that to me or whoever else the school committee is, because we owe it as the custodians of this budget to answer your questions and to be open to hard things. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, it seems like all of this is a little bit of a tricky dance. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think from my perspective, I think what you're saying is we have to have some faith that there's been the due diligence to know that this is the right number that will carry the school forward. And there's also that, you know, the number could change. The schools could ask for more funding, and we kind of are going to have to live with that.
And I'm going to be honest, anybody can pull up old videos and old meetings and things. And I stand by, you know, what I've said. I know we need this money. I deeply, deeply, deeply believe that without this override, our students will suffer. Our student experience, our delivery of education will suffer. And to me, it's about the kids. The kids won't have what they need. But I also believe the kids are going to need more, and soon. So I would be disingenuous if I didn't tell you that. But I know they need this.
Yeah, the one.
Sarah, I just wanted to jump in and I'm going to steal my trivia game privileges to ask a question, and then we'll check with Jen and Terry as to our time. In the spirit of the way we set these prep sessions up, we wanted to give folks that were coming before town meeting a chance to dry run. And as I listened to you, have you thought about how to answer if you get a question that says, you know, there's probably a general sentiment in town that we know that next year there's going to be a whopping big override coming. And if people said, why don't you come back next year and everybody can lay everything on us all at once? Like, what's your pitch for why the school override should start this year when we know the big waves coming next year?
I guess that goes to what happens if the vote's no this year. And essentially, we'll lose staff, we'll lay off staff, we'll cut programs. We really couldn't go any further 2-3 years ago. I remember Bill McAuliffe saying, there's nowhere else to cut but the staff lines. There is nowhere else to go. And staff lines mean kids' classrooms. That means we go from 22-1 to 30-1, or we, in years past, Jen, you can probably speak to this, at times when things were really bad, and, we talk about cutting whole programs, whether it's the arts or things like that. And we're really getting dangerously close to that point, to be perfectly honest. Some of the things in here are, could we continue to charge for school kindergarten? Absolutely. But should we go one more year without any security cameras that functioning outside of one of our schools? We have the new school where they function, no other school. We can cross our fingers, nothing happens, but I'm not putting my money there. Can we continue to go without some of these facility upgrades? We can get by another year, but the bottom line is we need to stop saying that Marblehead has an exemplary level of education, because we absolutely positively, for the money we invest, cannot and do not provide an exemplary education. So we've kicked the can so far. We can't go any further as far as the schools go. I'd argue we couldn't go any further for a few years ago. The only reason we didn't really implode 2 and 3 years ago is, believe it or not, when the pandemic hit, it brought a gigantic influx of cash into our schools through the CARES Act, through savings. We say savings because we shut down schools. We didn't pay overtime on custodians. We didn't pay our sports staff, pay all this stuff, utilities. So we actually had gigantic savings during COVID, believe it or not. And that is the only way we didn't implode in 2020, because, I was a finance liaison in 2020. Jen served on the committee with me through then, and we were going to implode in every way imaginable. The funding that came out of COVID is the only thing that kept us from doing that. Last year, we bought a math curriculum that way. Our kids had no way to learn math. Our town wasn't paying for our kids to learn math. Our current math curriculum we bought has no homework component, K-8, and part of this money buys that homework component. I can tell you, as a mom and 4 kids in that age bracket, there's a big difference when they don't have any reinforcement at home. It's not because teachers don't want to give it anymore. We couldn't afford to buy the component. That's part of this override. So
I would just say thank you for that. And as feedback, I think I would highly recommend that you open the presentation accounting for all the money that was added through COVID, because that makes it really clear that there's been a different sort of support mechanism here, that as opposed to just some extra nice to haves that were on the list. Like, there's money that's came and gone, and we have a big hole. So thank you for that. But that was really powerful.
I think we have time. Becca has her, I think we still have a couple of minutes left, and Becca Wooden has her hand up. I don't know if you.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. I was just going to echo what Jean said. I think Sarah, like, leading with the COVID stuff is very powerful. So even, I always appreciate your candor. So like could we make it for another year? Yeah, probably, but I think that starting with the COVID thing and just saying the reason that we didn't do this a couple of years ago, kind of flipping the question, almost like we're doing this now, not because we're jumping the gun for next year, but because we actually should have done it a couple of years ago, but we're saved by, the global pandemic and disaster that was COVID, that had a ripple on positive effect. So thank you.
Yeah, really good point, Becca. And I certainly hope that the school committee is going to have you do the presentation at town meeting, Sarah, because you are clearly the one to do that and to make that detailed explanation and pitch to the town. So appreciate that. Did anyone?
that's very kind. I hold your breath.
We'll see what happens. There's some work.
No,
And,
but
and
yeah.
remember, town meeting is only the first step. I don't know if you want to kind of go through that, or do you want me to, Sarah, how that works real quick? So just so folks know, town meeting is the first step, right? So if it passes town meeting, and Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, 2/3 majority or simple majority for town meeting?
We need 2/3 majority at town meeting to get on the ballot, and then the ballot's a simple majority.
Right. And that ballot would be June 21st, which is the same day as our local election. And so that's something to keep in mind. Awesome. I think in the interest of time, it's 8 o'clock. I think we have finished answering questions. So I want to say thank you to Sarah Fox. Excellent job. Go to your birthday party.
Go to the birthday.
Happy birthday to Matthew. And I think we're going to go on to the next topic. Jeannie, if you could switch slides.
Does Terry, do you have a question, honey?
Oh, shoot.
No, that was clap hand
That was
That
a
was
clapping
Sarah.
hand. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, just making sure. Okay.
for Sarah.
Yay, Sarah.
So just reiterating, town meeting is Monday, May 2nd at 7 PM. You want to get there early. I do think it's going to be crowded. So if you want to get a seat in the Performing Arts Center, you need to get there early. They will never turn anyone away. They do have overflow that will take place in another room at the Veteran School with audio. Nobody will ever be turned away. Everyone will have a seat, but you want to get there early. The ballot vote, as I said, June 21st, same day as our local election. As I said, Sarah's running for re-election. We also have Tom McCann on here. I wanted to send out a quick plug to him.
Yeah.
I think he's still on there.
Yeah, he's there. Hi, Tom.
Haven't had a chance to meet Tom IRL in real life, but he is running for a position seat on the Board of Health, and has been pretty active in a lot of the stuff going on at the Board of Health and the transfer station. So I wanted to throw that out there. He will be on the ballot June 21st. And the override will only pass if it's approved by both, right? So both town meeting and then at the ballot. So that's important to know. Next slide, Jeannie, please. Oh, this was Sarah's last slide. Sorry, Sarah.
we ripped you off, Sarah. That's all right. She has birthday cake to eat.
That's true.
I think Elizabeth had a question.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I like spazzed and didn't do raise hand function, but Jen, I have a quick question for you. Only because I'm a little bit involved with Article, I think 33, which seems like with a packed ballot, it's gonna either be really late at night or the following day. So I've kind of asked around some folks, and the feeling is that it's going to be a 2-night meeting. I don't know what folks on this call who have experience at town meeting feel about that, but like my feeling is that Gary usually will go really late into the night, but I think that with so many override discussions that he'll also plan for 2 nights, maybe even 3. I don't know, but
I doubt it.
I don't know how that impacts schools, because I don't know where they are on the ballot. And like, if you're trying to make sure that you get people that are interested in that vote there.
Sarah,
So
do you
we're
want-
always at the end. We're always at I
So,
don't
like-
think that's by accident either, if you ask me. So we're 46. I hear people say it will be 2. Back in 19, we were 54. We were prepared to go 3 nights. People said it's definitely going to go 2. It might go 3. It went 1. He did it in 1. We were 54. I am confident we will do this in 1 night. So
Okay.
I could be wrong, but be prepared to go 2 nights in case you need to. But my gut is telling me it's 1. What do you think, Jen? It hasn't gone 2 in a long, long time.
It hasn't gone 2 in a long time. As Jim Zisson says in the chat, that Gary says he gets paid $100 a year, whether it's 1 night or 2 nights or 3 nights. So he's usually motivated to try to keep it to a night. So he moves it along pretty quickly. And it's been a while since it's been 2 nights. So we'll see. It depends on how much discussion there is on some of the earlier articles. There's a lot of there's several articles that are non-financial oriented, that are more sort of administrative, but may have their own set of pros or opponents and proponents. So depending on how long that discussion goes, these last items, which are the overrides, which I think both the school, Sarah, and I think the town overrides are towards the end, if not the end. Oh,
No, Jen, you should.
Shame
Come on.
shame on me. I should know my article. Sorry.
So the town is 9, 10, and 11, so they'll get theirs in for sure. We're 46. There's always, the option to take things out of order, but that's not gonna happen, I don't think. I think we're the last, if not the second to last, if not the last warrant article. And again, like I said, if in 19 we did it in one, I don't know, I think we're gonna do it in one.
Probably. And don't forget, we forgot to mention that the town's coming to ask for, I think it's close to $25 million in an override over a 5-year plan for $25 million. So that will also certainly have a tremendous amount of discussion. And I think there was there's a bunch of questions in chat asking us who sets the agenda, and the agenda is set by the Board of Selectmen, and it was set weeks and weeks ago. So they are in a certain order. There can be a vote to take them out of order, as Sarah had mentioned, but that doesn't often happen. So that being said, hopefully it's one night.
Sorry, can I follow up with that?
Sure, Becca, go ahead.
If there's an opportunity to take them out of order, is that only for the selectmen, or can audience members propose taking them out of order?
No, that the audience, the town meeting members. So, town meeting, it's interesting. I read this somewhere. Town meeting is both an event and an entity, right? So the event it's a town meeting on Monday night, May 2nd, but town meeting is also an entity, and town meeting is the legislative branch of the town. Town meeting is the one that sets the bylaws for the town and approves all expenditures and appropriations. So anything that goes on in town meeting, even taking articles out of order, is determined by a majority of voters at town meeting. So that somebody would make a motion to take an article out of order, and Gary would then ask for a vote. And if that is a majority of hands that approve that, then it would be taken out of order.
Like a townsperson could propose the. Oh, okay.
Only a town.
Right.
I thought it was that Article 1 is the vote to take the motions or the articles in order. And so if you're like that, that's where you would make the motion to not do it in order during the vote.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you could speak up. Okay.
Yes, you can. And I believe at any point, though, you could take an article out of order, I believe. So even if Article 1 passes, I think there still could be an amendment to take another article out of order.
And then Gary's Spears might lose his mind, but.
It follows Robert's rules. So if anybody's really wants to get in the weeds, I have the really thick one. I wouldn't get that. I get I think there's a Robert's rules for dummy abridged version. But the whole meeting goes by Robert's rules, the way to make a motion, how to do it. And the one thing that is slightly different is they will only accept motions or amendments that are already in writing. So if you think you're going to get creative, I'd bring pen and paper with you, because if you don't have it in writing, it doesn't exist.
And
that
Gary
has-
only gets there a few minutes before town meeting, so you got to catch him between 6:57 and 7 p.m. Get in there fast.
Well, you can also make a written amendment on the floor of town meeting live, because that's happened. In fact, there have been committees, the planning board was one a few years ago, that amended one of their own articles on the floor after some discussion, and it had to be in writing. So it gets a little dicey and a little tense, but Sarah's right, it does need to be in writing.
And the amended motion always is voted before the primary motion. And if the amended motion passed, the primary motion dies.
It gets a little complicated.
Oy, yeah,
Awesome.
now my eyes are crossed.
Any other questions? I just want to
I
check.
do have one more follow-up question on that. Sarah, would it be helpful for us to try to push that up earlier in the night, or do you think strategically that's not helpful?
I think that when it there's a reason it doesn't often happen, and you might get yourself through town meeting, but that really upsets some people who may have gone for your
Sure.
article at the ballot, but now won't, because they're upset that
Yeah.
you moved the sanctity of town meeting. So I wouldn't do it unless you have to.
No, okay, so all I wanted to know was, would it be helpful?
Yeah.
So if not, I'll zip it.
I don't think so. Not at this point.
Awesome. Okay.
All right.
All right. I think we are ready to move on. Terry, you think we're good to move on, Megan, to our article?
Yeah, I'll do this really fast
be
because
quick.
it's after 8 and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, I just wanted to let you know about, we have 2 articles actually that we're presenting. One is to ask the town to adopt a diversity statement. We currently don't have one townwide. So the Task Force Against Discrimination is supporting that article. So we're hoping that that passed. So we ask for your support for Article 35. The article that we'll talk on just really briefly is Article 36, where we are asking the town, asking boards and committees and other town bodies such as those to adopt standard operating procedures, and within that define their organizational structure. It is, right now we do not, except for I think it's the school committee, I don't think any other boards and committees have anything like this. So what happens is that any sort of question that you have, any sort of change that you want to make or improvement that you want to make becomes very difficult because you don't know who to go to. So you think that you're supposed to go to this committee and that committee says, no, actually you're supposed to go over to this committee. And then you do this sort of circular time, wasting a lot of these committees' times because they're trying to help, but they don't have the answer. They're not the ultimate decision maker. So what we're asking for is to create them. It can be a template. It doesn't have to be detailed, but just that everybody knows who sits on the board, what their role, what their powers and duties are, and and a decision-making process. It's really something that's standard. I think most everybody here has worked in the professional world before. Just about every organization and company, business, whatever, has these. And I feel that with the $100 and some million that we are responsible for, we think that it's time for us to operate that as well.
Right.
That is my spiel on that.
Let me just throw in an example that I think might help for folks to sort of understand. This, and I had said this earlier, the school committee by statute has a very robust and significant list of policies and procedures that they follow. And it really is an excellent guide and rules for the road. And most of our other boards, I think, all of our other elected boards and appointed committees do not have that. So an example is several weeks ago, the Board of Health had a public meeting on Zoom. And on one of their agenda items was there were a couple who are residents here in town that were looking to have a chicken coop in their backyard. I don't even remember their names, or where they live. But they were looking to have a chicken coop with a few chickens. They have young children, and it's a common thing in town that there are some people that like to raise chickens. And there was a lot of confusion. And I think that the residents were very in control, but frustrated because it wasn't clear what the rules from the Board of Health were. And in fact, they were told that they had to get permission from their neighbors for them to have chickens. And without written permission from their neighbors to submit to the Board of Health, they wouldn't give them the approval. And there was no set guidelines. There's nothing in writing about that. And clearly these residents were frustrated because they had a neighbor who would not sign off on this. And that doesn't happen in the zoning world. Your neighbors don't determine normally whether you can do an addition on your house or put a shed in your backyard. We have rules around that. And certainly neighbors have input, but it shouldn't be solely the case. So that was an example where it sort of jumped out at, some of us at Power Up that there was no set rules of the road and set procedures on how you get a chicken coop approved in Marblehead. So I think that might be, sort of a tongue in cheek and maybe not all that, earth shattering example, but it is an example. And these folks were, they were frustrated and that was evident. So we think that, and there's many other examples of times where we really have to have some rules of the road and procedures of operation for our board so that residents and elected and appointed members know what the rules are.
Thank you. Yeah, perfect. Definitely. And yeah, we can go on and on for examples, but so anyway, that's what we're going to do. Those are the 2 articles we're looking for. There's several other articles that are important as well. I hope that everybody has an opportunity to read them. Jeannie, you want to skip through to the end so we can let these poor people go home and Sarah can have birthday cake?
I just wanted to check in whether, Sarah, did you have your hand up? Did you want to say something?
Oh,
I was jumping the gun a little bit because I at the end, so I can pause or I can jump in here.
Jump in.
I just wanted to also give a little pitch. If any of you are intrigued more, think people that are intrigued more, I am I would be honored and love to bring my act on the road. If any of you want to have a few people over and I can come in small groups, talk about this, answer questions. I think the timeline between now and town meeting is tight, but if we pass town meeting between now and the ballot, I'd love for any of you to kind of host a little meet and greet about that. So
We're going to hopefully set up a forum, Sarah. So I'll keep you and all the other candidates as well informed, but we'd like to host a forum probably in early to mid-June. So we got to get through town meeting, and then we'll look at everybody's calendars and do a forum. So we'll keep you posted, because we'd love to hear from all the candidates and give them opportunity to connect with the people, because it's really hard, I feel like, in the committee board Robert's rules world to really understand who Sarah Fox is, or who Tom McMahon is, or you can't really get into a conversation or a dialogue like that. So I hope that we can create that sort of atmosphere. So we'll keep you posted.
thank you.
Awesome. Megan, I think we're good.
Right, Jeannie,
Jeannie,
click the screen one more time. I wait, everybody see the cool animation that I did. Click. Oh, see? Ooh. So get involved. Click one more time. Click one more time. Oh, not right click. Woo, look at that. So 3 ways, simple ways to make an impact. Obviously show up to town meeting, but stand up at town meeting and support some of these articles. You don't have to say anything fancy. Just get up and say your name. You probably have to say your address, and then say, I support Article 32 or whatever the article is. You can give a little bit of testimony if that helps, but it's so impactful, because people will say, hey, those 10 people stood up. I want to support this article too. If you need a script, email us, happy to give you one. Email and text 10 of your friends, neighbors, family, whatever, drag them to town meeting. Because if only, there's 18 people left, we could bring, pretty much a quorum if we each invite and get 10 people to show up times 18. And obviously, like I said, thank you so much for being here. If there's anything we can do for you, any questions you have, by all means, get in touch. And thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Mike, if you're still here. And good luck to all the candidates. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
see you Monday night.
Yes,
Thank
see
you,
you.
everyone. Have a great night.
Good
Bye.
night. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Mike, thank you. Bye, Tom.
Peace out.
Peace out.